Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Japan and we're going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So both of the breweries involved in this one have featured on the channel a couple of times before. When it comes to the home brewery, they are quite new to the Japanese beer scene, but they've built up a very good reputation for themselves over the last couple of years. And if people were to ask me about them, I would say that they're probably most well known for their different kinds of IPAs, and they're very solid in those style categories in my experience. The Away Brewery, on the other hand, have been around a little bit longer, and they're most definitely best known for the different kinds of Belgian style beers, and they're definitely worth checking out if that is your jam. So yeah, the beer that we're going to have a look at today though is a style that I haven't tried from either brewery if memory serves me correctly. It's one that you don't see all that often from Japanese breweries, come to think of it, and it's also got a little bit of a local twist from the perspective of the home brewery as well, and certainly a twist that I've never come across in craft beer either, I don't think. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this one's going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for the home side of things then, we are going to head to Shikoku Island, which is the smallest of the four main Japanese islands. We're going to go to the northwestern part of the island, or southwestern part, I guess I should say, because that island sits at a different angle. So the southwestern part of the island to Ehime Prefecture, and to be specific, we are going to go to Matsuyama City, and that is of course home to the wonderful DD4D Brewing. So this particular beer is brewed in collaboration with Kyoto Brewing Company, who are from Kyoto in Hyogo Prefecture obviously, but it's called Kawaru Gawaru. It comes in at 7.5% ABV, and this one is a Belgian style triple, but it's also got a little bit of local Ehime fruit in it as well. So it's a citrus dry hopped triple. So this should be quite interesting. Like I say, you don't find the Belgian style triple from Japanese breweries all that often. Kyoto Brewing would be one of the first ones I would look to see if they've done it. But yeah, this, I think, with the American hops and the addition of some local Ehime fruit, I think it could make for a really interesting one. We've certainly not had a Japanese triple in a very long time on the channel, if ever. I honestly can't remember. But yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how it goes. Kawaru Gawaru, the name incidentally apparently means like change divides. I'm not sure if it's meant to go together or if it's just the kind of two words meant to rhyme things. But yeah, so as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from DD4D and from Kyoto Brewing, and we will no doubt add more to both of those lists at some point in the fairly near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Japanese playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added to very regularly of course now since I'm based out in Asia. And do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about the two breweries. We'll start off with DD4D, since they are the home brewery in this case. So yeah, as I mentioned to you already, DD4D are based in Matsuyama City, Matsuyama-shi, in Ehime Prefecture on the island of Shikoku here in Japan, and the brewery was founded back in 2019. So the main man behind the company is Keita Yamanuchi, and his first exposure to craft beer and brewing was during a trip to Canada during his university days, and he started home brewing for himself back in 2016. The history of the DD4D brand though goes back to 1998 when his family opened a clothing store in the Sanbunecho area of the city. But apparently they were very selective, or they still are quite selective about the brands that they select for the store, and they want to focus on the message and the worldview of the designer. But the clothing store was Keita's parents' business, and when he took over, the shop and was looking after it, his interest in beer was still very strong. So he wanted to start a brewery, and so he formed the parent company Japandemic. But the company officially started brewing beer back in 2019, and the original brewery can be found behind the clothing store space, where they also have a bar, so you can go in and buy some t-shirts and things and drink the beer. Sounds like it could make for a very interesting out and about video, as I've mentioned before. But in November of 2021, they opened a new brewery in the Matsuyama area of the city, and this facility is known as DD4D Factory and Curiosities. And it was at this point that they started canning their beer, and that was when they started pushing it further afield across Japan. And the brewing equipment that they have there comes from PSS in Slovakia, and they started off with a fermentation capacity of 9,600 litres. They've got an on-site bar there that opens on weekends from spring to autumn, and as of July 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced about 250 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. And like I mentioned to you, if people were to ask me about DD4D, I would say that they're probably best known for their different kinds of IPAs. I've seen West Coasters, New Englands, I think we had a black IPA from them as well, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, they are starting to do a few other styles as well, actually, such as this one, the Tripel. But yeah, that is everything I can tell you about DD4D Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on to the away brewery then, Kyoto Brewing. And yeah, we've done this quite a few times as well. So Kyoto Brewing were founded back in 2015, and the main men behind the company are Chris Haing from the US, Paul Speed, who's from the US as well, and Ben Falk, who's from Wales. And these guys apparently met up in Aomori when they were colleagues as English teachers in the JET programme. But Chris is the original brewmaster, and he had homebrewed during his time at university, which apparently replaced snowboarding as his main hobby. But Paul, on the other hand, was studying for an MBA in Japan, and he and Chris brought Ben, a long-term friend, on board, and they drew up plans for the company and started to seek investors. But prior to starting the company, Chris studied on a distance brewing course from the American Brewers Guild, which resulted in an apprenticeship at the Lost Abbey Brewery in San Diego over in California. He then spent half a year, working at Shiga Kogen Beer, one of the kind of classic breweries here in Japan, and then he spent some time at Ushitora Brewery as well, who were being helped at the time by Luc Lafontaine, who used to work for Dieu de Cille, one of the kind of premier breweries over in Montreal and Quebec in Canada. But he also helped them set up the brewery along with Kaori Oshita from Mino Beer here in Osaka. But they started off with a 15 US barrel brew kit, or 1750 litres for those of us who use the metric and correct system. I will say I'm always going to make fun of the American measurement system. But they very quickly had to increase their fermentation capacity because of the demand for their beer. But the brewery itself can be found in the Minami ward, just to the southwest of the city centre, and the building started off its life as a lumber yard, and then later served as a print facility, and finally as a pharmaceutical manufacturer before the brewery moved in. They've got a tap room on site there that opens on Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays, and then in 2023 they produced around 250,000 litres of beer, because they've expanded quite a little bit. But in May of 2023, Chris Haing announced that he was going to leave the company at the end of the year, and then he was replaced quite recently actually by James Fox, who used to work for Stone, Ballast Point and also Cape May Brewing in the US. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what direction Kyoto Brewing Company take in the future, because obviously they have quite a little bit of heritage with the Belgian beers, but obviously they've got a very American style brewer coming in from what I gather. So yeah, we'll just need to see what happens with Kyoto Brewing going forward. But as of July 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced about 290 different kinds of beer. They've got a few different ranges as well. The Taiban range is the year-round range, and they've also got the Nakama series, which are the collaboration beers and other limited releases as well. But yeah, that is everything I can tell you about Kyoto Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website as well, follow them on Facebook and Instagram and things to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And again, you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and actually have a little look at the beer itself. You can see the can is sweating a little bit because it's very warm here in Japan during the summer. But yeah, you can see this does look very, very nice. I think it's the first pink can that I've had from a Japanese brewery, come to think of it. But yeah, certainly the first pink one from DD4D. But yeah, plain silver top on the can there. Like I said earlier, the name of this beer is Kawaru Gawaru. It comes in at 7.5% ABV. It's a Belgian style triple, this one, but it's hopped with Mosaic, Equinaut and Centennial, all of which we know quite well. So these three hops are all American. Mosaic is going to give you about 14% alpha acid and a big sort of tangerine orangey note with a little bit of earthiness in there. Equinaut is about 12% alpha acid, and that's going to give you a big kind of zesty limey character. Centennial is about 12% alpha acid as well, and it's going to give you quite a big lemony note to it. They've also added in a Kawachi Bankan, which is also known as Mishokan or Uwa Gold, which is a local citrus fruit in Ehime Prefecture. It looks a little bit like a lemon actually, but I'm not sure about the flavour of this one. And it's fermented with an Ardennes yeast as well, which should be quite interesting. So very much a sort of American Japanese take on the Belgian style triple. But apparently this one was brewed as part of a two-part collaboration, and the Kyoto Brewing beer that was released is sour IP. I never saw that one actually, I only saw this one. But yeah, 350ml can, this one. You can see on the label there at the bottom, there are the symbols for both Kyoto Brewing Company and DD4D Brewing there. It tells you a wee bit about the beer in Japanese on the front of the can as well, and that's basically just the information that I've told you previously. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass then and see what it's all about. This is one of the beers that I've been very, very curious about, in fact. So, let's do this. That does look nice, actually. Interesting stuff. So, let me just line that up so that my OCD is happy and things look nice. But yeah, you can see this beer, it actually looks a little bit more like a New England IPA or something like that, in all honesty. So before the head disappears, we can say that it's poured with just about a finger of a frothy, I would say kind of cream coloured head there. There's some big bubbles sitting on the surface of the liquid there, but the further up the head you go, the more kind of foamy that becomes. But yeah, one or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass here. A few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head, and if we shine the light through this one, you can see it has got a little bit of that natural haze to it. But colour wise, this is certainly almost like a kind of mango juice colour, a lovely kind of bright golden yellow. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker coloured beer. And any barrel aging you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. And when it comes to this one, because it's a golden beer, probably the Mishokan fruit and potentially the sugar that will have been added into this one will play a role as well. For those of you that don't know, quite a few styles of Belgian beer have different kinds of rock candy sugar and all these kind of things added into them, and that's the reason why they have a lighter mouthfeel but higher alcohol content, and they tend to be a little bit more carbonated as well actually. So yeah, the triple and the quadruple both do that actually. But yeah, in terms of the appearance of this one is pretty much in line with what you would expect of a Belgian style triple. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the appearance section. So we can go on and have a little look at the aroma of this one. Nothing surprising about this beer in terms of what you would expect from a Belgian style triple, like I said. So yeah, let's have a wee look at the nose on this one then and see what it's all about. So yeah, That's really interesting, actually. I mean, it actually comes across as a little bit more like a wheat leaning beer rather than anything else. That was the first impression that I have of it. It kind of reminds me actually a little bit of dare I say Blue Moon. It kind of reminds me a wee bit of that, in all honesty. But yeah, I think the aroma of this one certainly is quite nice, and it makes a good summer beer, I will say that about it. One other thing I would say about this is that for a triple, it maybe is slightly low on its ABV, because usually these are about 8 or 9%, something like that, and then the quadruple is going to be about 10 or 11. So yeah, that's something we need to think about here a little bit too. But yeah, the aroma of this one is pretty nice, I have to say. You've got a nice little bit of breadiness in there, you've got a wee touch of kind of honey and brown sugar and things. You can certainly smell the miso can, that big citrusy zesty thing. It's not too far away from yuzu, in all honesty. You've got a nice little bit of hoppy character in there and some hoppier fruits. Yeah, an interesting beer for sure. I will say the citrusy note that you get out of this one might saturate your nose a little bit, so we're going to have to just do our best with this one before we actually taste it. But yeah, I like this. I do like the aroma that's coming out of this one for sure. So with this one, the backbone of the beer is that lovely, fresh, white bready bread crust. You are of course getting a little touch of like cracker and woody note out of it, which you're always going to get with triples. You're always going to get a little bit of that woodiness and kind of crackery note out of it. But there's a sort of sweet, fluffy, almost like banana bread type note out of this one, which is quite interesting. So yeah, lovely little bit of a sweet kind of banana bread in there. You can feel a straight up more fluffy, white, barley malt white bread out of this one for sure. On top of that, you start to get some of the kind of brown sugary notes coming out of the beer. And for me, this one, it has a little bit of a kind of toasty note to it, which I think is great. So yeah, there's a little bit of a kind of toasty character to this one. Yeah, a little bit of a toastiness in there, and then there's a wee bit of that kind of toasty brown sugar in there, sweet kind of, more of a honey type note. I don't know if there's a full straight up caramel on there, but yeah, more of a honey and a kind of slightly toasty brown sugar note. Certainly a little bit of biscuit, and you've also got that big oily, yeah, you've certainly got that big oily citrusy character in it from the miso can. Like I say, it reminds me of yuzu. You know, it's got a little bit of the kind of pungent, it's almost a little bit like a cross between a peach and a lime, but with the pungency of like, you know, lemon or grapefruit or something like that. As I say, it's not a million miles away from yuzu, but it's distinctly different. It's just a little bit more juicier and more limey leaning, in all honesty. So yeah, you can smell that right in the middle of the nose, and that almost kind of saturates your nose a little bit. Yeah, at the back of the nose you do start to get a bit more of that yeasty character in there, sort of more farmhousey and crackery and slightly woody bread in this one. But then yeah, I think that's everything we can really say about the malty and yeasty side of the beer, in all honesty. So let's have a wee look at the hoppy side of things then. So yeah, the green component for me, there's a little touch of earthiness in this one. So yeah, you've got that little bit of earthy character in there. There's a wee bit of a herbal note as well, some nice floral aromaticity. So yeah, a little bit earthy, a little bit herbal, a bit more of a kind of floral aromaticity. And then yeah, you do get that nice big zesty grassy character out of this one. You've got Equinaut and Centennial in this, you kind of expect that. The earthiness is most likely to come from the mosaic. But yeah, you can certainly smell the more oily lemon limey character in this one from the hops. I can get a wee bit of the tangerine note from the Mosaic, but not all that much in honesty. I think the miso can is just really kind of dominating the fruity side of the aroma there. So yeah, all in all, the aroma of this beer is certainly quite interesting. So as I always say, take a wee bit of time to just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it is about time that we try this one. So this one is the Kawaru Gawaru Change Divides, 7.5% Belgian style triple with Mosaic, Centennial and Equinaut in it. Brewed in collaboration with Kyoto Brewing Company. This beer is from DD4D Brewing. This should be quite nice. Let's get stuck in. It's also got a little bit of that miso can fruit in it, as we mentioned too. Slàinte, skål, and cheers. Kanpai. Ooh, that's nice. I have to say, I think that is pretty damn good actually. So, thumbs up to both DD4D and Kyoto for coming up with something like this. You wouldn't find a triple like this in another country, I think. You know, potentially in well, maybe not in a non-Asian brewery. That's for sure. The Asian breweries like to play around with adjuncts and things like that, but yeah, they've done a good job of this. I wouldn't expect anything less because these two breweries are always very, very good quality, but this works really well actually, so thumbs up. Definite thumbs up on this one. It's beers like this that you want after 4,000 odd reviews. You want things that are going to test your palate a little bit and make you think, and this one certainly does that. So yeah, gives you everything you want. You've got that nice kind of bready backbone. You've got a little bit of hoppy character in there. You've got the big citrusy component, and then the sweeter side of the triple coming out later on. So yeah, let's just break the flavour of this one down then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth, as we always do. But it's a very drinkable beer, this one actually. This would be, as I say, this would be quite nice on tap, and it is quite summery. You know, the hot, very hot summers in Japan are certainly, you know, you need a few beers during those. Let's just say that. So yeah, middle third of your palate then. The backbone of the beer, you can feel that lovely, smooth, fresh, white bready bread crust in there. That forms the backbone of your beer. As you move further forward, you get that good little bit of, Jacob's cream cracker. Well, actually no, I'd say it's a bit more of a woody character. So you've got the fresh white bready bread crust in there, the woody note, then you've got a kind of layer of Jacob's cream cracker above that. Then I would say you have a wee bit of a more, you've got a bit of a more kind of wholemeal, brown bready character actually sitting in there, and potentially that brown bready character is a wee bit more like a kind of banana bread in fact. So yeah, above the cracker layer it's more like a kind of sweet banana bready type layer. There's maybe a little bit of an almost clovey type note in there as well, but yeah, on top of the banana bread you start to get the more straight up white bready character, and that the white bread in this one actually has a good little bit of density to it, which is quite interesting, but it's still very, very smooth. That is one thing I would say about this triple in comparison to, you know, some of the classics like Westmalle or Shime triple as well. This one certainly has a little bit more kind of bready leaning, I would say, or the bready character at least is just that little bit smoother. It's probably just due to the type of malts that they're using, of course. But yeah, you have that kind of nice smooth white bready character sitting on top of it. There's a little bit of there's a little bit of a kind of toasty, sort of toasty, like bread and buttery note sitting on top of that, which is quite interesting. And then you get the kind of actual brown sugars sitting on top of that. So yeah, there's like a circle in the middle of your palate there, and you can feel it's almost like a kind of toasty butterscotch or something like that. Then you've got a more Werther's Original butter candy butterscotchy flavour further in, and then you've got a wee bit of that kind of straight up caramel right in the centre of your palate there, and that is of course the boozy side of the beer. Perhaps kind of sprinkled on top of that, there's a wee bit of like McVitie's digestive biscuit or something like that. But yeah, all in all, the way that all of that pieces together, I think, is very, very nice. So it gets a big thumbs up from me. So yeah, for me, the on top of the kind of brown sugary side of the beer, that's when you start to get this miso-can kind of thing. Although in fairness, it does feel like it's kind of infused into the bread as well. So yeah, the kind of miso-can note is really pungent, especially into the aftertaste. It really has the pungency of like a strong grapefruit actually. You can really feel that, but as I say, the flavour is a little bit more kind of yuzu like, but the way it differs from the manner in which it differs from yuzu is it's a little bit more kind of limey almost. I think that's definitely fair to say. But yeah, you can feel in that middle third of your palate especially, the miso-can is really quite pungent there. So yeah, I think we've said everything we need to about the middle third of your palate, and that is of course where the majority of the complexity with this beer lies. So yeah, remember that generally speaking, sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. But then yeah, above that, within that back third of your palate, you're going to get very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just at different intensities. But yeah, in the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that little bit of bready build up in there, so you can feel the kind of sweeter banana bread in the base, then the fluffier but smooth white bready character sitting on top of that, and then the base of that back third of your palate, you get the kind of white bready bread crust in there, the Jacob's cream cracker, then you've got the banana bready layer. Once again, you can feel that's a little bit lighter, taller and more airy, but drier of course. Then you've got the white bready character sitting above that, which again is a little bit lighter, taller and more airy. And then I wonder if there's a little touch of wheat in this one, because just on top of all that bready character, you can feel there's this little bit of more dense, bitey, white bready character. So yeah, the way that goes together is quite nice. But then above everything else on that back third of the palate, you're starting to get the yeasty side of the beer. So let's have a little look at the yeasty side of things. That is one thing I should have said earlier as well. Perhaps it's the fact that they're using an Ardennes yeast in this one that's making the bready character that little bit smoother, because the malt and the bread have to really work together in the beer to give you a lot of the flavour, especially in a more kind of malty, yeasty offering such as this one. That just kind of makes sense. But yeah, yeasty side of the beer then, let's have a wee look at those flavours. Yeah, so for me, the yeasty side of this beer, you can feel in the centre of the in the centre of the yeasty character, you've got a little bit more of like a sweet white bread almost, I would say. I don't know if I'd go as far as saying banana bread with this one, but then you can feel around it, it's got like a slightly drier brown bready character. And then yeah, the extremity of the yeasty side of this one is more of a kind of bread crusty type note. So yeah, that's the yeasty side of things for me, and definitely you can feel the flavour on the back third of your palate is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of squashes down and condenses together. But yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the malty and yeasty side of the beer. Let's go to the hoppy side of things then. So green component of the beer, back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there. Then as you move further forward, you get a little touch of herbal character, and pushing further forward from that, you start to get more of the kind of floral aromaticity coming out of the beer. But around the front curve of the tongue, it's certainly lighter and more grassy, and you can feel The one thing you're always going to get is when you add fruit into beer as an adjunct, it's always going to suppress a little bit of that green component, so you can feel the nice oily, zesty character of the miso can there on the edges of your palate too. But let's have a little look at the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of the beer. So yeah, on top, on the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again, you get a little bit of that bready build up in there. I would say in this case, there's only a small bit of the banana bread. It's more about the kind of fluffier, white bready character on top of that, and you can feel some of the miso can just kind of mixed into that too. But the base of that front third of your palate, yeah, you've got the fresh white bready bread crust, the cracker, bit of the brown bread, quite a lot of the white bread in there, and then yeah, above that you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll away out of the beer. But I would say that underneath that, in fact, you do have some of the more oily miso can type flavour as well, and as I say, that lingers into the aftertaste and becomes a bit sweeter, I would say, the further into the aftertaste that you go. But yeah, let's have a wee look at that fruity side of things as well. So yeah, for me, the part of the hoppy fruits, I should say, yeah, maybe at the back of that front third of your palate, there's a slightly sultana or kind of peary type note to it, but then yeah, as you come forward into the front half of that front third of your palate, yeah, you can feel the lemony limey character from the mix of the Centennial and the Equinox, and then yeah, further into the aftertaste you'll start to get a wee bit of that tangerine orange as well. But certainly yeah, the miso can kind of dominates the fruity flavours of this beer. It certainly suppresses a lot of the other stuff. But yeah, I think that's everything we really need to say about the flavour of this beer, in all honesty. I think it goes together really, really well. So yeah, let's leave it at that. Let's just round off the review then with a wee look at the mouthfeel. but see, this is a really interesting triple. I actually quite like this. It's almost like a, it does remind me a little bit more of like a slightly stronger wit beer, in all honesty. I think that's a fair assessment of this beer too, to be honest. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say this beer, it's pushing toward top end of, it's pushing toward the top end of mid-bodied. Yeah, pushing toward the top end of mid-bodied. The carbonation, the carbonation is quite smooth in this one, to be honest with you. It's not quite as bubbly and things as you might find from some other triples, especially the Belgian brewed ones, but it's got a nice little bit of oily, slick character to it as well, which I quite like. The malt base in this one, like we said, it's a little bit, it's got a little bit of dryness underneath, some nice smoothness in the middle and a wee bit of sweetness on top, and then yeah, the hoppy bitterness in this one for me, I think this is, there's a little bit of bitterness I think coming from the miso can fruit in this as well, incidentally, which is quite interesting. But yeah, I think it's probably about 20-ish IBUs from the hops, and maybe a little, the fruit itself is adding a little bit more bitterness there, and the fruit certainly adds some of the oily and sour parts of the beer, but I wouldn't, it's not sour as in being tart and things, it's just got that little bit of sour bitterness to it. But yeah, the fruity side of this beer, quite oily, like I said, from the hoppy side of things, but yeah, the miso can really does dominate in this one. I'm very curious whether a lot of the nice smooth bready character this one has is from that Ardennes yeast, or whether it's down to the malty, the malt bill in the beer. But all in all, I can just say this is really, really nice, quite different to a lot of things that I've had here in Japan. So if you do come across a can of this, it is definitely worth trying. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. This was the Kawaru Gawaru, a 7.5% Belgian style triple with Mosaic, Equinox and Centennial, miso can added into it as well, and using an Ardennes yeast from DD4D Brewing and Matsuyama Ehime Shikoku here in Japan, in collaboration with Kyoto Brewing Company from Kyoto in Hyogo. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from DD4D and from Kyoto Brewing Company as well. And we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the near future. But until then, slange it, skål, cheers, and I'll catch you guys in another one. Kanpai just now.